From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business. A 165 billion peso lifeline for the economy is now up for signature by the president. A fraction of that goes to food security. Is that enough? Planting the seeds of wisdom. One farmer cultivates partnerships with others like her to feed the nation. And we consult a husband and wife doctor tandem for a formula on achieving wellness inside out in the time of a pandemic. As the global community confronts a public health crisis, it is also facing another issue from this pandemic: rising hunger. It gets worse when those who bring food to our table may be the ones who do not have enough to eat. Data reveals this pandemic displaced about 700,000 farmers and fisherfolks, and a bill to be signed by President Rodrigo Duterte will set aside 24 billion pesos to help them cope with the situation. For solutions to this issue, I'm joined now on the exchange by Agriculture Secretary William Dar, and he joins us from San Jose, Batangas. Secretary Dar, maraming salamat po for joining us on the exchange. Marami pong nahihirapan na mga magsasaka at mangingisda kasi sa pandemyang ito. When do you think will they get help from the 24 billion pesos set aside by the Bayanihan 2 Act?
Yeah, Rico, let me start by saying, in spite of the pandemic, ang sektor ng agrikultura grew at 1.6%. Sabihin ay lumago talaga at ang ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda ay in spite of being disrupted, about 15% of them, and in spite some like the level of 35%, ay hindi nila naibenta. They were not able to market their produce. But overall, according to Rico, we have enough food supplies. Although early days of the lockdown, you have seen problems
Correct.
of movement of food supply. Over time, this movement have been properly resolved.
But Secretary Dar, despite agriculture being a bright spot, there's still many problems. Let's listen to this story, Secretary, of one farmer who's struggling at the moment, from our correspondent, Melissa Lopez.
Opo.
Life has been hard for Merly Dairit and her family, and the pandemic is driving them even deeper into hunger. The 48-year-old resident of Alicia Town in Isabela Province has been planting rice for over 20 years. But the income is not enough because of low palay prices. She now also cuts tall grass and clears farm lots, traveling as far as Kalinga and Apayao to earn more. But that opportunity was also lost because of restrictions and the general fear of COVID-19 infection. Through it all, she only received 1 month's worth of cash aid from government.
Bago nag-COVID, ma'am, nahihirapan na kami dati, ma'am. Lalo na ngayon, ma'am, lalong wala na kaming pang hanap buhay, ma'am. Yung gatas kasi, ma'am, may gagastusin kami, may pagkain pa kami. Ngayon, ma'am, wala. Puros binibili namin ang pagkain namin.
Dairit now makes only 200 pesos a day. Half of that goes into buying rice, as she doesn't get to bring home what she tilled from another person's land. Other farmers also feel the pinch. For now, Dairit can only hop from each planting and harvest season to get by. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Secretary Dar, kahit lumago yung agricultural sector nung second quarter, marami pa rin naghihirap na mga magsasaka. When do you think will they be able to gain access itong sa 24 billion pesos na ito? Baka maraming proseso, yung bureaucracy, maraming papeles na kailangan.
Tama po, ganito. We also have given out almost 6 billion pesos for the rice farmers. Doon apektado dati ng rice tarification law, we gave 6 billion. So sila po yung nabigyan ng ayuda itong last 5 months. Ngayon, itong sa 24 billion, mayroon din tayong nakalaan na 4 billion para sa ibang sektor ng agrikultura, mga fisheries, sa upland agriculture, coconut, and sugarcane industry. So sila po yung tututukan natin, bibigyan natin ng ayuda. We are targeting 800,000 farmers na bibigyan ng cash and food assistance. Ganun po. I believe na, as I've said, there is enough food and food supplies are abundant. Ang problema, yung pambili siguro, pambili ng isang mamamayan sa pagkain. Pero kung tatanungin natin, is there enough food that have been produced? There is enough. Now, having said that, Rico, yung toka ng pagbibigay ng food packs, pagbibigay sa mamamayan na mas lalo yung mahihirap, ay ito yung parte naman ng Department of Social Welfare and Development at saka sa mga local chief executives or LGUs.
Pero Secretary Dar, yung mga business leaders, nababahala sila tungkol sa implementation process. Pakinggan natin po si Jose Luis Yulo. At itong sinabi niya tungkol sa integrity of the implementation process of the 24 billion pesos.
The Chamber of Commerce of the Philippine Islands is worried on its implementation safeguards against corruption. There has to be transparent implementation procedures and instant, no-nonsense auditing.
Secretary, malaki nga yung pondo, 24 billion pesos, pero itong mga business leaders, nababahala sila na baka hindi makarating ito sa mga farmers and mangingisda because of graft and corruption.
That's not true for the Department of Agriculture. I will say that because we have put in place the right mechanisms to avoid corruption. Number one, we have these integrity circles. So we are reviving this para babantayan nila yung mga iba't ibang opisina sa regional field units namin. Mayroon tayong lately we had everyone in the department pledging a covenant on good governance and no to corruption. Nilinisan po natin ang kagawaran ng pagsasaka. I will assure you that.
All right. So you're saying there will be checks and balances and transparency in the Department of Agriculture. Pakinggan po natin ulit itong ating mga farmers and fishermen who need more help, Secretary, as we enter the 6th month of the lockdown.
Opo.
Nung una pong ikinuwan ang pandemic, totally lockdown po kami. Hindi po makapalaot ang aming mga mangingisda. Tuwirang kami ay humihingi sa kanya ng tulong para sa aming mga pang-alternative na livelihood o di po kaya ay sa papariterna ng aming mga bangka na sa tagal po ng lockdown ay nagkaroon na po ng mga damages.
Wala pa rin pong biyahe ng bus dito sa amin papuntang Bicol, Masbate at sa iba't ibang bayan ng Quezon. Kung saan araw-araw kami nagpapadala ng tinotinalad ng gulay doon. Yun po ang naging dahilan kung bakit bumagsak ang presyo ng aming gulay, halos hindi na po mabili.
Ito pong sitwasyon ni Ate Len, pakinggan po natin, meron siyang problema. She's a farmer from Quezon Province. Can we sustainably help our farmers during this pandemic? Hindi lang po ayuda o mga dole-outs?
Mayroon tayong kadiwa ni Ani at Kita at ang regional field officers natin ay mayroon nakatokayan every province. And of course, number one, ang partners natin dyan, local government units, at sa mga trading centers na put up by the department. So, ganun po. Pag may problema, itong last 5 months, alam ninyo, Rico, we bought about 6 billion, through our partners, through Kadiwa ni Ani at Kita, 6 billion worth of vegetables and fruits. Ang laki tulong. Ang local government units, we also advocated for them to buy fresh produce And these are the things they are distributing to the constituencies. So,
Secretary Dar, what about si Aling Mila, who's a fisherman from Baler? Kailangan niya ng mga bangka para pwede siyang kumuha ng mga para makatulong ito sa fellow fishermen niya sa Baler.
but alam niyo, we have regional office also of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. So makisangguni po sila, tutulong yan ng local government unit para i-network yan sa BIPAR. Wala tayong mga provincial and municipal na extension officers. Always through the local government units po. Tutulong po tayo.
Maraming salamat po sa inyo, Secretary William Dar, for helping our farmers and our fishermen. Agriculture Secretary William Dar joining us on the exchange. And ahead of the program, where your business is our business, one social entrepreneur is helping farmers make sure there's food on the table. And a social media giant takes disaster preparedness to the next level. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Hello, everyone. Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Banks expect a slight pickup in prices of basic goods in August. Union Bank says inflation during the month might rise to 2.9%, while RCBC thinks it could slow to 2.6%, not too far from July's 2.7% inflation report. Among the factors economists mentioned are higher transport costs as more people from Metro Manila and other areas commute and go back to work in August. Our kababayans are definitely feeling the pinch. Let's hear more what the Filipino says about getting by during this pandemic.
Sa totoo lang, kulang nga ho yung pambayad ko sa upa namin, pati yung kuryente namin, tubig, hapit na hapit ho talaga.
Walang trabaho, kaya kahit anong liit ng pera, pagkakasyahin. Sa darating na pasukan, kailangan pa rin yun, pagandaan.
Budget namin, di nga mabudget kung paano gagawin
Kailan tayo mag-tiis ng ganito. Ngayon ito, buti na lang kamo na buksan natin lotohan. Nagbabaka sakali kami tumaya, baka sakaling makatsyempo.
Well, it is a tough time for many Filipinos. Earlier, Secretary William Dar talked about help for the vulnerable sectors in agriculture. But there is one individual who is pitching in. She has a social enterprise serving and educating farmers and fisher folks all over the country. Joining us now on the exchange is Farmer and World Economic Forum 2020 Young Global Leader, Cherry Atilano. Cherry, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We heard the concerns of our fellow kababayans. With many of them having no jobs, it's so difficult for them to put food on the table. Tell us, do we have enough affordable food supply?
Thank you so much, Rico. Good evening, and thank you for inviting me for this. I guess we have enough food supply in the Philippines. However, the problem is affordability and access to food, especially that, as of April 2020, there's 27.3 million Filipinos who lost their job. So the problem right now is access and how they can afford to buy food if there is food.
And Cherry, when the lockdown started in mid-March to slow the spread of this coronavirus pandemic, farmers found their distribution routes to market cut off. How did you find a way to bring that food from the farmers to the consumers?
During the pandemic, I know it's so hard to bring the food from the farmers to the communities here in Metro Manila. However, we work with our contacts and networks, especially farming cooperatives and local government units who can have access to logistics. And we also work with some NGOs who can help us with the logistics requirements to bring the produce to Metro Manila. So there are a lot of people who help us, especially on the supply chain management. And also we got a food pass lane from the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Trade and Industry that actually help us to go through with the checkpoints along the way from the farmers to Metro Manila.
That is such a great initiative, enabling the farmers to have their livelihoods despite the public health crisis. But now, as you mentioned, Cherry, 27.3 million Filipinos have lost their jobs. That's a 45.5% unemployment rate. And many of them are now resorting to cooking, baking, selling all kinds of things online. For those who don't have any jobs, is farming an option?
For me, Rico, no bias because it's been my profession for 22 years. But I guess this is the time that we need to go back to farming. Rural and urban areas should go back into farming. It's because we need to be resilient. We need to grow our own food. During this pandemic, we know that the panic buying, it's because everyone is hoarding food for their family. So hopefully it's an awakening for us to learn how to know how to grow our own food, and at the same time to really dive into agribusiness because it is such an essential business given what happened during the pandemic. It's only way for survival.
But what if I want to get into farming but I don't have any experience? What is the potential of urban farming to augment my earnings and my income and to help my family?
Rico, actually, during this pandemic, I receive a lot of ask from people. You know, there's a question, where are we going to access training to grow our own food? I've been teaching a lot of people who are growing food in Marinduque and in Siargao. And of course, in Agria Farm School, we are teaching a lot of people how to do sustainable farming. First is to have food on their table, and second one is to develop business out of it. For the urban area, we promote urban farming in the urban area. It's because of the inaccessibility of food. So if you learn how to plant your own food in a container or in your patio, in a small garden outside your house, it's a big help to have food on your table. It's savings from your food costs, and later on, you can also do business in urban gardening.
And which kind of vegetables and fruits can you grow in your backyard or in your condo? And basically, where can you get these seedlings?
So Rico, the easiest way to grow during this pandemic, actually, end of March, I planted kangkong, pechay. Those leafy vegetables are the easiest to grow. And mostly they are easy to cook. They're always present in Filipino cuisine. So I actually harvested 6 kilos of pechay from my 4 pots of pechay, and also 6 kilos of kangkong from my 5 pots of kangkong. I just planted them in container. In terms of access to seeds, Agria actually developed a grow kit where you can buy, and you have access to seeds and seedlings, to organic fertilizer, to soil, and also potting medium and pots. And there are also a lot of businesses now who are into agriculture that they put their products online for you to have access. I always, if I run out of seeds or potting mixture or pots, I just search online and everything is very accessible. And so many Facebook groups also are developing as such to have access to these kinds of farming inputs.
There you go. You heard it from Cherry. You can be a farmer in your own home. Thank you so much for that inspirational exchange. Agria founding farmer and president, Cherry Atelino. Moving now to tech news, and Twitter is leveling up local disaster management efforts. The social media site now has a search prompt which directs users looking up keywords related to calamities to much-needed timely information. There's also a list of agencies and NGOs with relief efforts and media reporting on natural disasters. We'll take the short break on The Exchange, where your business is our business. A husband and wife doctor team shares tips on how we can stay fit and healthy amid this pandemic. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Exchange on CNN Philippines. A big story this week, yet again, PhilHealth. The embattled chief has stepped down amid swirling controversies of graft and corruption in the agency. I spoke to Ricardo Morales in an exclusive interview. He thanked President Rodrigo Duterte for accepting his resignation. Morales stressed he can now focus on his family and health. He assured his departure does not spare him from possibly being held liable. The beauty and wellness industry was one of the hard-hit sectors during the lockdown. But as they reopen amid this new normal, business is picking up once again. On the exchange, we get tips from a husband and wife doctor tandem on how to have a healthy mind, body, and business during this health crisis. Joining us now on our C-Suite Vision are Doctors Ivy and Z Teo from the Ivy Group. Doctors, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rico. Nice
All
to
right.
see you.
Before we get
Thanks
into
for-
beauty and wellness, doctors, let's talk about your business partnership because according to research, not all couplepreneurs thrive working together. 1/3 of all new ventures close within 2 years and half within 5 years. But both of you have broken the record. You've now been into business for more than 10 years. What is the secret to your success, Dr. Ivy?
Well, Rico, you're right. We've been working for more than 10 years now. In fact, we celebrated our 11th year anniversary last year.
Congratulations.
The business that we founded together. And I can say that probably the secret to our success is the fact that we complement each other. Z is a visionary and I execute his visions. Z is a macro manager and I micromanage. So we both have our own traits that we bring into this business together.
Macro and micro, they really complement each other. That's perfect chemistry getting into a business. But Z, tell us, you are from Singapore and you also have a very successful practice in the city-state. Any cultural and management differences despite you handling the micro and Ivy taking care of the macro when running the business?
Yeah, Rico, as you know, I'm from Singapore, so Singapore and Philippines, we kind of look the same, but actually we're very different in culture. So one of the biggest things that I've seen is that in Singapore, we are all really practical, really straightforward. We just want to get things done as quick as possible. While here in Philippines, we got to kind of be a little bit more sensitive with the emotions, got to kind of see how they're feeling. So, I got to kind of adapt every time I fly up and down. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest cultural and management problems that I have is to kind of just switch both sides. And they're very, very different.
Do you miss Singapore? You haven't been back in many, many months because of the lockdown, Z.
Yeah, I haven't been back for 4.5 months, so I had to cook my own chicken rice now.
And that is your new business, apart from beauty and wellness. So, Ivy, but I'm sure, despite both of you really looking nice and cozy during this interview, there are still some business challenges that you face. What are some of these, Doc Ivy?
I think one of the most difficult challenges we have to face working together as a couple is the fact that for me, as a wife, I have to sort of contradict him without hurting his ego or without him being very sensitive about it. Of course, as a wife, I have to respect him, but in business, we have to learn how to contradict each other for the best of the business.
That's right.
That's still a work in progress.
I'm still working on it.
Still working on it.
That's even though you've been married for more than a decade, it's always a work in progress.
Agree. Trying.
But what is the formula for success for a marriage and a business relationship to really work, Z?
Well, this is actually a question that can maybe take one whole day. You know what I mean? But you're gonna kind of distill it down. I would say that the couple must have a common platform of values that they kind of share. In business, we're talking about a value of integrity, real hard work, a lot of passion for the vision. You must be in sync with one another, a lot of honesty with one another. Humility is very important because you must be able to take one another's opinions. One more little tip I would give is just to add some humor to it. Because sometimes, life is short, so sometimes when you have difficult times and you have a bit of an argument, just try to laugh about it, crack a joke and just go like, hey, it's just another day tomorrow.
And Dr. Ivy, let's talk about beauty and wellness. How are you both adjusting to the new normal? Because the industry was hard hit during the first few months of this lockdown.
Yes, Rico, it was not easy for us. I mean, we had to follow a lot of health protocols. We had to set them in place. As a doctor, we have to wear the full PPE, the mask, the goggles, and of course, it could be quite difficult and very hot if you work long hours. Of course, we have to adapt also to doing a lot of Zoom consultations. Of course, as a doctor, I'd rather see my patients face to face. It's really easier, and I can really give them and assess them properly. But then I guess this is something we have to get used to for now, and we've tried to adapt and adjust to the situation.
You know, I always look at your IG photos. You have 3 beautiful children. You really have really large dogs, and one of them just gave birth. How do you unwind and unplug on weekends after a very long and hectic week? Z and Ivy.
You know, Rico, we just really enjoy spending time with the kids, cooking, having good conversations, playing with our dogs, doing our Bible study. And like any other couple, we are also guilty of watching some K-dramas at night just to unwind.
And Z?
Well, yeah, for me, I've got 4 months of cooking now. So, you know, I spend a lot of time cooking. Now I understand what my mom said when she said she enjoys cooking and seeing us eat.
I've tried your chicken rice. It is exactly what it is in Singapore. Z? Authentic.
He mastered it already.
I mastered it because I had to.
Always a pleasure having you here on CNN Philippines. Thank you so much for joining us on The Exchange.
Thank you, Rico. Bye.
And now, how about the iconic jeepney as a bag? Filipino designer Zara Juan is making 120 of these jeepney tote bags for a cause. One is part of the Biyaheng Pag-asa campaign that raises funds for jeepney drivers sidelined by the pandemic. For each bag sold, 2,000 pesos goes to a startup fund. This way, drivers can go into other sources of livelihood. And this is The Exchange. We make sense of the facts and the figures and the ups and downs of the business cycle because your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Thanks for watching The Exchange on CNN Philippines. News you can trust.